Story 1. I am due to start my Doctor of Philosophy this fall, but people's admissions offers to Doctor of Philosophy programs are being rescinded left and right because of the federal funding freeze. It hasn't happened to me yet, but it could literally be any day. The future is totally uncertain now, even though I did everything right. On top of that, my fiancée was very excited to be starting a pharmacy residency in a Veterans Affairs hospital this summer, but they are now on a hiring freeze due to chaos in the Veterans Affairs at the federal level. So basically, we might both be out of luck career-wise. Story 2. One of my grants had funds rescinded. I'm sure the rest are on the chopping block. Trickle-down economics seems to only work with money loss, not gain. Story 3. My father is quite pleased and is repeating catchphrases coined by Donald Trump like a young, overexcitable child while now being actively vocal with his hatred for Jewish people, particularly Ashkenazi, after I explained the different groups, although he lacks the ability to pronounce it, and immigrants and non-white people. So, basically, he's now out in the open with his racism and hate and just couldn't be happier. Happy as a pig in mud, I'd say. Absolutely no knowledge of policy. His behavior is mirrored by the majority of people I come into contact with, most notably my coworkers. It's ironic because our work is dependent on the import of aluminum, and work has trickled to a near standstill. Nobody is buying as we've adjusted our already inflated prices to combat the tariffs, and all our crews have nothing to do. They've taken to leaving 2 hours earlier than usual and sending their people to my department to do busy work. The office staff has become a ghost crew. It's impacted my life by making me become extremely guarded and short with my words. Any sort of rebuttal or perceived slight is met with the behavior that 2-year-olds tend to show when they're tired and need a diaper change, all while their ability to remain housed and fed has been pulled from underneath them, and they couldn't be happier about it. Truly dystopian. Story 4. I store threatened and endangered native Hawaiian seeds, seeds that are found nowhere else in the world. I have worked with plants that cannot survive outside of a test tube. Of course, some will say this is natural selection. It is, but to me, it is preservation and conservation. I'm working as hard as I can every day, but I assume I won't have this job in a couple of weeks. Story 5. As a federal employee, Trump's presidency brought a government shutdown that left me without pay for weeks. It was stressful figuring out bills, but it also showed me how fragile job security can be, even in government work. It changed how I view leadership and the impact of politics on everyday life. Story 6. I am not a federal employee, but the bulk of my work is with federal contractors. If they lose their contracts, I lose them as clients. It has not happened yet, but my clients are making noises like it is going to happen. This is unfortunate. Story 7. I am losing Medicare coverage of telehealth. I am a schizophrenic without a car. Rather than independently setting and making my own appointments, now I have to burden the family and have them spend gas money and time driving me to the doctor physically. Did I mention I don't own a car? Telehealth can be done with a cheap laptop on a value internet connection. Visiting requires a car or a relative or Uber money. It makes no sense that the cheaper option will lose coverage. Story 8. Back in 2018, I was a software developer at General Motors. Trump's steel tariffs led to 14,000 layoffs. I was one of them. He cost me my job. Also, discovering just how many of our fellow countrymen are catastrophically stupid has been kind of rough. Story 9. This is not something that he has caused to happen in the last month. This is leftover fallout from his previous presidency. A client of mine died from a completely preventable infection. She suffered what she thought was a miscarriage but could not afford to go to the doctor. She was right. It was a miscarriage, but it was incomplete, and while she was saving up the money so she could afford to go to the doctor, she developed a really nasty infection. But she was afraid to go to the doctor at that point out of fear that they would ask why she had not come in sooner. She was afraid that if she sought medical treatment, she would end up in jail. So instead, she slowly suffered and died at home at age 22, versus risking going to jail for a crime she did not commit. Story 10. Many clients of my company conduct scientific research funded by grants. At this point, many of their applications are stalled, and they do not know if they will have money to continue their work. This is bad news for them and for us by extension. Story 11. Every day is just another shocking story of Trump smashing another piece of democracy. However, for people reading the comments, please note that this is their plan. They are flooding the zone, with Trump signing executive orders and acting like a king because he doesn't know how to be a president. The goal is to exhaust us and whittle us down until the end when they finally make the bigger and more unconstitutional moves. It's our job to stay steadfast and vigilant as well as to continue pushing back. They don't actually have as much power as the media makes us think they have. I will leave this here. Story 12. The federal grant money for the research into my wife's rare disease ended, so we are basically waiting for Europe or China to develop the next generation of the medicine. We are also waiting for the Affordable Care Act to get modified so I can figure out if we need to move to a pre-existing coverage state. And egg prices are up again, so is inflation. Story 13. I talked a friend of mine who is an amazing neurosurgeon into joining the Army. I've been an Army nurse for 21 years. She was hesitant, but I finally convinced her to sign a 3-year contract. She has been a neurosurgeon for a decade, so she was entering at a very high rank, which is normal for medical personnel, and she was excited to take care of soldiers. The Army has about a dozen neurosurgeons, approximately 12 neurosurgeons for 500,000 people across the world. She is transgender, so now the Army has one less potential neurosurgeon. Who knows how many soldiers' lives she could have made better with her skills and compassion. Story 14. As a European, a fan of democracy, and a staunch Ukraine supporter, I can hardly describe my feelings about the last 4 weeks. I knew it would be bad, but I could have never imagined that Trump would upend the post-war order, kill the transatlantic pact, and drive away America's most important allies to forge a new alliance with Putin. Story 15. I've quit talking to my brother. He is a union auto worker who voted for Donald Trump. He's probably going to lose his job once tariffs affect his company's bottom line. That's not why I gave up on him, though. It's that he won't stop talking about this. Every time I see him, he's still talking trash about Kamala Harris. Like, dude, she lost. Also, I am not hardcore liberal. I don't have a lot of love for the Democrats either. I am just practical. There are things citizens need that we aren't going to get from Trump. He's taking things away daily. I live in fear that my daughter won't be able to go to school soon if he really destroys the Department of Education. Story 16. I work for the federal government. I have been coerced to resign. I have spoken to dozens of traumatized probationary employees with less than 2 years of seniority who were fired even with outstanding ratings. We have hundreds of employees who are having to drive up to 2 hours each direction to go to an office where there are no coworkers, potentially no desk space, and no logical reason to return to the office except to push them to quit. We are told that for every 4 people leaving, we will be able to hire one, but likely not until calendar year 2026. This is being done with no regard to what critical work is being done to help our veterans and their caretakers. If you know a federal worker, please be assured we are not okay. Story 17. It has made a quick review of the news in the morning more like doom scrolling for the ages. I think I am going to have to start the day ignorant for a while. Story 18. Being hit constantly, day by day since November, with the realization that way too many people are illiterate, brain-damaged morons who will gladly perform oral acts for authoritarians on command, has destroyed my hopes for humanity. Story 19. I was supposed to start working for Indian Health Service on the 10th, but could not because of the federal hiring freeze. Luckily, the Human Resources Office has been updating me on the latest news, and I can actually start on Monday. Story 20. Dane here. I'm cutting out American goods and services from my life. Netflix, YouTube had Premium, Google Maps, and other online services where there is a European alternative. Avoiding American products when grocery shopping when possible. Had to convince my kids that their world wouldn't collapse if we bought a different ketchup from Heinz. Had an empty Heinz bottle, and filled it with a Danish alternative that had a similar taste. They didn't notice until I told them. The oldest claims he did think it tasted a bit different, but he didn't mind. The upside is that I'm saving a lot of money. Story 21. The people I work with have become emboldened with their racism, sexism, transphobia, and homophobia, stopping just short of admitting it to themselves while somehow claiming the Democrats are the real racists because they were pro-slavery while Lincoln was a Republican and he freed the slaves. Also, the great switch never happened. The kicker is I'm Australian and live in Australia and work with, you guessed it, Australians. These people are after any excuse to justify being hate-filled bigots, so now I'm forced to learn United States history and politics in an attempt to defend human rights. Story 22. I frankly thought that the United States was a great place to live, but ever since his election and witnessing the ugly side of United States society, I now think otherwise. It's sad how people have to resort to traveling overseas to seek medical treatment to survive. Story 23. Working retail on commission is horrible right now because the customers are rightfully worried about spending their money. I could very well lose my job at the rate things are going. Story 24. My wife and I have joined with a group of people, some friends and some friendly strangers, to try to help local refugee families who were left without support due to the funding freeze. I drive one of them to school and back every day. My anxiety and depression have increased significantly, but at least being able to help a few people in my neighborhood helps a little. Story 25. It's made me seethe with anger. Why not have a government that promotes democracy and the rule of law, opposes corruption, and makes well-informed decisions that are designed to benefit as many people as possible at the lowest cost? Instead, Donald Trump seems to make decisions based on his desire for revenge. He is completely self-serving. Story 26. I work in biotechnology, focusing on medical and substance abuse research. So far, federal funding freezes are impacting noticeable but minor things like government employee travel. If it continues or expands, it will become harder to secure funding for research, likely resulting in job cuts. The issue is that even the threat of this happening could cause agencies like the National Institutes of Health to cut funding, leading people to lose money and jobs, even if the situation doesn't escalate significantly. We'll see. Story 27. Well, I got illegally fired from my job that I was excellent at, and it is definitely an essential position. Now, I'm broke and trying to figure out how to make my mortgage. Story 28. My best friend in the whole world was raided by Immigration and Customs Enforcement. Thankfully, she is okay and was not deported or anything, but it was the scariest thing. Although as of this edit the upvote ratio is positive, it has been going up and down a lot, which means there is a strange amount of downvotes. That does not normally bother me, as Reddit is Reddit. However, people are downvoting me factually responding to an AskReddit post. I have to wonder why that bothers them. Story 29. Grief, really. I had a lot more hope that things were going to get better, that big problem progress, as I understand it, diversity, equity, inclusion would continue. Slow, but up and to the right. It's difficult to accept that things are bad, going to get substantially worse, and remain so for a very long time. Story 30. I work for a grant under the Department of Education. We are not holding summer programs this year. Outside a very dogmatic church, we are the summer programs for our county. People will choose to indoctrinate their children, leave them home alone, or have a parent stay at home. I will most likely not have a job. A childcare facility we have been trying to get built for the past 2 years will not be built. Teachers are quitting or retiring left and right. I cannot speak for any other place, but this county is struggling with public education for at least a year. If Trump continues, public schools will be shutting down. And while there is a Christian school, even they won't be able to cover the influx of students. And every car with a Trump bumper sticker blames me for not holding summer programs. Story 31. Canadian, we were on the edge of severe tariffs that probably would have sunk our economy a significant amount and very possibly put us into a recession. Steel tariffs are already causing some problems. And I would say my life is impacted by my concern for the impacts of a one-state solution in the Middle East and the abandonment of Ukraine against Russian aggression. Those things have massive impacts on many real and vulnerable people. Story 32. My job, I work for a program that houses homeless veterans. The Department of Housing and Urban Development is in shortfall, and they're scrambling and unable to provide the support we're used to in my program. We're banned from speaking to the media, so we're supposed to pretend everything is fine. We're exempt from the firings so far, but they rescinded offers to candidates and then tried to call them back, so we lost people. In interviews, people want to know if they'd have to be on probation if they switch jobs from within the government, yes, and then are declining. We're forced to return to the office in a program that serves many counties and is community-based. So we're wasting an insane amount of time in offices that can't accommodate the number of people that are now crammed in them. Forget about any sense of privacy to make calls to veterans or get your notes done. You can't even have supervision privately because there's no space. I'm convinced we'll end up exceeding fire code limits. One of the orders basically eliminated transgender people entirely. Not really sure how that impacts veteran care or even how we treat people we serve. And believe it or not, the highest rate of transgender individuals served in our armed forces. Surprise. We drive government cars to our locations, and coworkers have been confronted walking in for lunch. People that now have this belief we're lazy and not really working. It's madness because I've never worked with such hard-working people in my life. My spouse is in special education, so if that gets cut, my sibling recently transitioned and is identifying as female, started hormones and surgeries. Honestly, I've never seen them this happy or productive. Anyway, she can't get a passport now because the bureau is a mess, and they won't issue one that says male or female because no one understands how to interpret the order. They removed mention of transgender from Stonewall and all government sites as though it'd be erased. I'm near the end of my student loan forgiveness. It's unclear but seems likely my employment options will be more limited. Also, my payments may go from $450 to $1,100. Still speculation compared to the rest. In a broad societal way, former President Donald Trump leads with hate, and it's continued to spread. An 11-year-old girl who immigrated here was teased to the point of suicide when classmates told her she'd be deported. We had Nazi sightings in Ohio. I was having a difficult time as a young adult and being pretty critical of myself in a conversation with my parents. They responded to say, "We're really proud of you, but whatever you do from here, we raised a kind adult. That will carry you no matter what you do or where you go." And it just makes me think, that is the goal, right? To be a kind, respectful, thoughtful member of society. Where did everyone find all of this hate?